going on, everybody? It's sure you get here with another deck profile. We are here with Ben, who took first place at a recent event, and we're going to grab that profile real quick. What were you playing, Ben?
I was playing Fiendsmith Ryzeal. This deck is crazy, bro. It's a little too cracked, a little too broken.
Elaborate for us.
All right, so we're going to get into the main deck. I'm not going to take up too much of y'all's time. So we're playing 43, I believe, in the main. It's either 43 or 42. I usually play 42 for my lists. I kind of just ended on this number just because it's what feels good. It helps with my side patterns a little bit. The side deck's probably the weirdest part about my list compared to most meta lists that you'll find. So I'll just get right into it. For the Fiendsmith cards, we're playing the 3 tracks. I wanted to max out on seeing this card because for me, playing this deck, the strongest part about it is when you open the Fiendsmith cards with the Ryzeal cards. It's really broken. Obviously, the 1-of Lurry. The amount of times where I drew this card as my normal summon is crazy. And what's wild is, with the way that the deck works, it's actually not the worst thing in the world to normal summon this because a lot of the Ryzeals can let you extend if you sequence your plays correctly. Like if you bin a Ryzeal that you're not using with Ice, then you special with Sword or so on and so forth. 3 copies of Engraver. Again, I really want to hard open this engine, even if I open more than one card. Sometimes it helps going second if you open more than one card, because your opponent thinks that they'll stop you by disrupting one Fiendsmith card, and then you just use another one. Obviously, one of the best Fiendsmith cards ever. This card's insane. Helps you bridge into your Ryzeal combos. Helps set up, disruption on your opponent's turn. Recur resources. Like this card is actually the MVP of the entire engine. It's actually insane. The brick, which I genuinely hate drawing. But again, at least in Ryzeal, there's ways that you can get rid of it. You can use Node to get rid of it. You can use Ice Ryzeal to get rid of it. So not the worst thing in the world if you draw it, but it's also not great because if you don't...
It's just always there.
Yeah, it's just always there. So no need to explain it beyond that. For the Ryzeal cards, we're playing 3 Bonfire, which is any Ryzeal you want, essentially. 3 copies of Ice, 3 copies of EXT. I play 3 Sword because this card is still full combo even if you draw it as your normal summon because it's good. It searches everything. I know some people were playing only 2. I like seeing it at 3 because, again, I just want to always have access to both engines in my hand. So that's kind of how I mathed it out. The 1 node, bestest boy, as Kyle would say. The 1 copy of the field spell. I'm not playing plug-in because obviously we're playing the...
who's bestest boy?
Bestest boy.
Node all day, dude.
Node all day. The man that I brick on more than freaking Fabled Lurry, bro.
You're bricking on a man? That's
shout out. But no, I'm not playing plug-in because, again, we're playing...
You're not playing Pure. If you're not playing Pure,
we're playing Twins, Eclipse Twins. We don't need it. There's other ratios in the deck that are kind of weird because I'm playing that card. Like, I'm only playing 1 Detonator, for example. For the hand traps, we're just playing some generically good cards with a little bit of spice. We've got Nib, Imperm, Ash, Veiler. I mean, this is just modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. Bell is the spice card. I liked playing Bell because, again, it was a small tournament, and everybody knows everybody, so everybody knew what I was going to play, and I needed a card that protected me from Bestials, but also could proactively stop my opponent at the same time. So I just decided, I was originally going to be playing more Bestials in my list. I decided to just play only 2 Bestials, no side Bestials, and play Bell in the main. And it actually came up quite a bit. The card was good into Ryzeal, it's good into Blue Eyes. Like it's just a generically good card. It has some applications against other rogue decks too. 1 copy of Fuwo, because I only own 1 Sag, but we played 2 Perulia to help the math stay the same. So we're playing 3 Mulch Armies in general. If I owned the card, I would be playing 3 copies of this in the main, and I would be siding 3 of this, but unfortunately I only own the 1, so we're just playing 3.
Do what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do. And then, obviously, 2 of the bestest boys. Mag, Druis. Hope he doesn't get banned. Might happen. I'd be sad, but... This card's probably going to go to 1. These are both really strong.
This has high opportunity of getting banned.
Yeah, these cards are mid into some of the rogue matchups.
It's searching any
like these cards are trash into Fire King, and they're also trash into Water. But unironically, I still had to banish my own cards and won against Fire King with these, even though I hard drew both of them, which sucked. So that's the main.
I think Mag's like just new age version of the library.
The side deck is honestly what I'll get into last. We'll get into the extra first. For the links, we're playing the Moon, pretty standard links, honestly. Like nothing too crazy here. I'm not playing SP Little Knight. I don't think the card's necessary. It just didn't really come up, honestly. I tried playing it. I just couldn't. The extra deck is so tight. I literally just. You have to get rid of something. You either have to get rid of this or you have to get rid of Typhon, and I value this and Typhon over SP any day of the week. Speaking of that, we're going to go into the fusions. We're playing Desiree and this. No brainer. You guys know what these cards do.
What does that card do? I'm just kidding.
This card says draw cards.
Oh, okay.
It's also level 6. Busted.
Is it a fiend? It'd be really cool if it was a
I
fiend.
wish it was a light fiend, but it is a dark fiend at least. Speaking of fiends, this helps make this card, which is one of the best cards in the extra deck. This card's absolutely crazy. In the matchups where my deck has a hard time dealing with certain cards, we just kind of slap this on board and pray our opponent doesn't have an out. And unironically, it does kind of work. I'm not going to lie to you. This card's really crazy. For the Xyz monsters, I'm only playing one copy of Duo Drive, one copy of Detonator. Realistically, you could play more copies of these. I personally, just on my playstyle, I don't play more than one. I wasn't respecting Kashtira, and I'm glad I didn't because it was only one deck there that was playing it. So these were fine at one. There were times where I wished I had another copy of Detonator, so maybe in the future I would consider playing more than one, but honestly, it was fine, especially with playing twins. One twins, a lot of people will talk about playing more than one twins. I personally am really bad at sequencing with this card. So I only play one. And honestly, even the times where it came up, it was fine at one. Maybe I would consider playing more than one copy, but honestly, I would rather just have the follow-up of making a second Detonator at that point. We're playing the one Excites on Dweller in the main, which is crazy. This card is bannable. This card should honestly get banned. This card to send for EXT to help break boards. This card because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is toxic and Fiendsmith resolving equals GG. And then Typhon. I'm a huge fan of this card.
Nope.
I think that a lot of people argue that if you have to use this card, you're probably already losing.
Yep.
The thing is that with a deck like Ryzeal, where any top deck leads you back into your full combo immediately, it's okay to chump block a turn to not die, to get rid of your opponent's card, and then draw a top deck Ice Ryzeal or a top deck Sword, and then just immediately win the game from there. Also, there are going to be a lot of simplified game states in the mirror match where you're going to be grinding back and forth, and if your opponent sets up a Desiree with the 3 equip cards, it's actually pretty difficult to deal with if you don't have access to this card, because you can't target it sending your aggregator, you can't beat over it using your Detonator, you can't banish it with your Chaos Angel. So realistically, this is one of the few ways that you can out that with your extra deck. So that's the extra deck. For the side deck, it's kind of unorthodox, or at least in my opinion it is, compared to lists I've seen people playing. I'm siding Crossout, which you might think is not too crazy, but I'm playing a lot of my side deck is dedicated to this card. We're playing 3 Crossout, we're playing 1 copy of Tactics, 1 copy of Book of Eclipse. I wasn't sure if people were still playing this, and Ash also beats this card, but I really just didn't want to lose to this because this outs my entire end board if it resolves. It outs the Fiendsmith engine, it outs the Ryzeal engine, it's just too good. This card I know people were playing, so we're playing that for a crossout target, and then also we're playing this in the side. We can
your
also,
favorite, isn't it?
Yeah.
You love that card.
Yeah. This is essentially just another copy of Designator, but and then obviously the Metatronus. This card is so bloody annoying. When I tell you that I have lost more games than I would like to admit to this card and this card.
These two have the same weakness.
These two and this.
Lose to Ash.
They do lose to Ash. This also loses, I believe it loses to Bell, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. No, it's just Decker Extra Deck. It's just Ash. This loses to Bell, which is also kind of busted. But no, so we're playing a heavy package for Crossout. I just did not want to lose to these cards because the weakness of this deck isn't the fact that it loses to hand traps, it's the fact that if your opponent opens Engine plus 1 or 2 breakers, you're hurting because this card you can't respond to effectively. This card you basically need to waste Ash or Desiree, but nobody makes Desiree going first. This card you can't respond to. This card you've already responded, so you'll notice a theme where if your opponent has played these cards, you either cannot respond to it adequately, or you've already used your disruption and now you're getting cooked because the card's being played. So I would just rather have a non-engine way of saying no, which would force my opponent to have more cards that auto-win the matchup. And the math is not supporting them drawing 2 cards that auto-win the matchup. They just can't afford to do that.
Metatronus, just because it says non-token monster, it still can't be a normal monster.
That's busted. Speaking of cards that you can't realistically respond to, Judgment. I freaking love siding this card. Again, my theory was that if I go first and I play through my opponent's hand traps, I'm putting them on better draw and out. I get to play 6 copies. Yeah, I don't play Strike. That card's crazy. I just like this card a lot more because I feel like it has more answers from my deck because people are citing in spells for me. I get to play 6 cards post side that just say no. So if my opponent's banking on beating me with their side deck, they're going to have to draw 2 cards usually to do that, if I'm
Why don't you
lucky.
play Solemns against Paul and try to win that war again?
Yeah, plus, I mean, if your combo resolves and you get to draw off of your field spell and you draw off of Necroquip, you're potentially drawing 2 cards post side. Your chances of seeing one of those cards is really strong. The Spice card, we're playing this. This is more of a tournament-specific card. I don't know if I'd play it again, but I definitely don't regret it. It's one of the reasons why I won, and that's because of the top 4 players, one was playing a Water deck, and another was playing a Fire King. So it was Mermail and Fire King, and I put these in here specifically for those matchups, just to be able to say no, because there are very few ways to interact with those decks outside of just trying to hand trap them to death. The problem with Mermail is that if you don't open specific hand traps to beat them, their cost, the cards they send for cost steamrolls them into unlimited advantage, or so it feels. I didn't play Droll just because I don't think Droll was going to be good against a lot of the other decks that were at the tournament, and I was right, it wasn't. DD Crow was good though because if you send a card for cost and you chain this targeting the card that they send for cost, like for example Dragoons off of Prince, then Dragoons isn't going to trigger. Similarly, if you're playing against Fire King, this can deal with the Garunix, this can deal with any card you want that prevents them from continuing to grind out and play the game. And then obviously, last card, Cowboy. We play this because our deck doesn't have enough attack, and we needed more attack points. Smile. So that is the deck. That's the main. That's the extra. That's the side. Shout out to the boys. It was a good tournament, a fun time. Shout out to my wife and baby on the way. Goated. We're excited. A lot of cool things happening. So, but yeah, that was the deck. It was a good time.
Appreciate the profile. As always, don't forget, guys, to like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Peace.